Admiral Helena Chen stood at the large window of her office, looking out at the New York skyline. The morning sun made the buildings shine like gold. Behind her, the screen on her desk beeped with an urgent message. She turned and read it quickly. Her face grew serious. "So, they're finally here," she said to herself. The Galactic Council's ships had entered Earth's orbit just an hour ago. 7 massive vessels, each bigger than the largest human spacecraft ever built. They hung in the sky, like dark stars visible even in daylight from certain parts of the world. Admiral Chen had been expecting this visit. Intelligence reports had warned that the Council was worried about Earth's rapid progress. In just 50 years, humans had gone from basic space travel to building colonies on Mars and mining operations on Europa. The older alien species didn't, like how quickly humans were catching up to their technology. She straightened her dark blue uniform and touched the silver stars on her collar. As Earth's defense commander, she would have to face the Council representatives. Her communication device buzzed again. "Admiral, the United Nations Security Council is meeting in 30 minutes. The alien delegation will arrive then," said her assistant. "Thank you, Lee. I'm on my way," Helena replied. The journey to the UN building took only 15 minutes in her official vehicle. Security was tight. Military personnel from all Earth nations lined the streets. The world's leaders had agreed that humanity needed to show unity in this meeting. Inside the Grand UN Assembly Hall, representatives from all 197 nations sat in tense silence. The hall had been redesigned 5 years ago to accommodate meetings with alien species. The ceiling was higher. The air system could handle different atmospheric needs, and translation systems could now work with over 30 non-human languages. Admiral Chen took her seat at the front. Next to her sat President Garcia of the United Earth Alliance, a political union formed 10 years ago specifically to deal with extraterrestrial matters. "Any last-minute intelligence?" the president whispered. Helena nodded slightly. "Our monitors picked up communications between their ships. They're not here for friendly talks." Before the president could respond, the great doors at the end of the hall opened. 6 tall figures entered. The council representatives were an impressive sight. 3 were Arcturians with their blue-tinted skin and 4 arms. Behind them walked 2 Rigelians, reptilian beings with scales that shifted colors in the light. The last was a Proximan, a being made of what looked like living crystal. The aliens took their places at the speaker's platform. The lead Arcturian, taller than the others, stepped forward. Its voice came through the translation system with perfect clarity. "People of Earth. I am High Counselor Zevra of the Galactic Council. We represent the 30 oldest spacefaring civilizations in this sector of the galaxy." The alien's 4 arms moved in formal patterns as it spoke. "We have been observing your development with concern." Admiral Chen watched carefully. She had studied the body language of Arcturians. The way Zevra's secondary arms twitched showed tension. This wasn't a routine visit. "The Council has made a decision regarding Earth," the High Counselor continued. "Your species is advancing too rapidly. Your development of quantum weaponry and artificial intelligence systems has progressed beyond your designated appropriate development level." Murmurs ran through the human delegates. There had never been any designated level discussed with Earth. This was the first time such a thing had been mentioned. "Therefore," Zevra said, voice growing colder, "the Council requires that Earth immediately halt all technological advancement in these areas. You will surrender your AI systems and quantum weapons research. Your colonies will be limited to Mars only, with all outer system operations to be shut down." President Garcia stood up. "With all respect, Counselor, Earth has never agreed to any technology limitations. We have followed all established protocols for new spacefaring species." The Proximan stepped forward, its crystal body catching the light. "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. This is a directive." Admiral Chen's hand moved to her pocket, where she carried a small device. With a subtle movement, she activated it, sending a pre-arranged signal to Earth's hidden defense network. "Just in case. The Council has determined that humans are a destabilizing force in galactic politics," Zevra continued. Your unpredictability and rapid advancement present a threat to established order. How exactly are we threatening anyone? Admiral Chen asked, standing up. Earth has engaged in peaceful trade with 17 species. We have joined 3 interstellar scientific projects. We have followed every regulation for safe technology development. The Rigelian spoke next, its scales turning a deep red. It is not what you have done. It is what you could do. Your species moves from stone tools to space travel in mere thousands of years, while stable species take tens of thousands. You create technologies other species never imagine. The Council finds this unsettling. Admiral Chen looked straight at the aliens. What they weren't saying was more important than what they were. Earth's intelligence had intercepted Council communications for years. She knew this visit wasn't really about technology concerns. It was about Earth's resources, the rare minerals in the asteroid belt, the unique biological compounds found only on Earth, the unusually stable star at the center of the solar system, perfect for certain types of energy harvesting. You have 30 Earth days to comply, said Zevra. After that time, the Council will take remedial action. The room erupted in angry shouts and questions. President Garcia raised his hands for silence. And if we refuse this directive? He asked. The High Counselor's 4 arms made a gesture that translated roughly as finality. Then the Council will ensure compliance through other means. We control the gateway nodes to faster-than-light travel routes. We can isolate your system. We can restrict your trade. If necessary, we can take more direct action. Admiral Chen smiled slightly. The threats confirmed what she already suspected. The Council was bluffing. Their military power wasn't as great as they claimed. If it was, they wouldn't bother with threats and 30-day deadlines. They would simply take what they wanted. The Council will return in 30 days for your formal surrender of the specified technologies, Zevra said. We suggest you use this time wisely. With that, the alien delegation turned and left the hall. The doors closed behind them with a heavy sound. President Garcia turned to Admiral Chen. Options? He asked quietly. Helena's smile grew slightly wider. Many, Mr. President. I suggest we call Dr. Elijah Frost immediately. I think it's time for Project Permafrost. As the world leaders argued and panicked around them, Admiral Chen sent another hidden signal from her pocket device. Deep, insecure facilities around the world, systems began waking up. Humanity had been preparing for this day longer than the Council suspected. The aliens would return in 30 days expecting surrender. They would get something very different instead. 6 hours after the Galactic Council's ultimatum, Earth's emergency response team gathered in a secret facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room was cold and plain, with no windows and only one heavily guarded entrance. Around a large, circular table sat 12 people, the leaders who would decide humanity's response. Admiral Helena Chen entered the room last, carrying a small black device. She placed it in the center of the table and pressed her thumb against its surface. The device glowed blue, creating a shield against any possible listening technology. Thank you all for coming so quickly, she said. As you know, we have 29 days and 18 hours before the Council returns for our surrender. President Garcia rubbed his tired eyes. The United Nations is in chaos. Half the world leaders want to surrender immediately. The other half want to fight. Even though our best weapons would be useless against their ships, fighting directly would be a mistake, Admiral Chen agreed. But surrendering would be worse. Our intelligence suggests the Council doesn't just want our technology. They want our entire solar system. A tall man with silver hair and intense gray eyes stood up from his seat at the far end of the table. Dr. Elijah Frost moved with careful precision as he connected his tablet to the room's main display system. Unlike the others in their formal clothes, he wore a simple black sweater and looked more like a university professor than one of Earth's most brilliant strategic minds. The Council's ultimatum is built on lies, Dr. Frost said, his voice surprisingly warm for a man with such cold eyes. For the past 5 years, my team has been studying everything we can learn about the Council species. What we've discovered changes everything. The screen behind him filled with images of the Council ships and detailed scans of their technology. First, their military power is greatly exaggerated. The Council maintains control through fear and the appearance of overwhelming strength. In reality, they haven't fought a real war in over 10,000 years. President Garcia leaned forward. But their ships are massive. Their weapons technology is centuries ahead of ours. Size doesn't equal strength, Dr. Frost replied, and their technology has a critical weakness. He swiped his finger across his tablet. The display changed to show thermal images of the alien ships. The Council species all evolved on planets with very stable, moderate climates. Their technology works perfectly within a narrow range of conditions, but it fails dramatically outside those parameters. Admiral Chen nodded. While humans evolved on a planet with some of the most varied and extreme environments in known space. Exactly, Dr. Frost continued. From the freezing poles to burning deserts, humans have adapted to survive almost anywhere. Our technology reflects this adaptability. We build things that work in extreme conditions because we've always had to. He showed more images, detailed scans of the inner workings of Council technology. Their ships maintain an internal temperature between 20 and 25 degrees Celsius. Their weapon systems begin to fail at 5 degrees. At -20, their life support systems shut down. At -50, their hull materials become brittle. The defense minister, a woman with short gray hair, spoke up. Are you suggesting we fight them with cold? Dr. Frost smiled slightly. In a manner of speaking, Project Permafrost was designed for exactly this scenario. He pressed a button on his tablet. The room's lights dimmed as a three-dimensional hologram appeared above the table. It showed the entire solar system, with small blinking lights at specific points throughout. For the past 3 years we've been building these, Dr. Frost explained. Weather manipulation stations using technology the Council believes is impossible for juvenile species like us. The quantum field generators, Admiral Chen added. They think we're only using quantum technology for weapons, but that's just what we wanted them to see. Dr. Frost nodded. These stations can create localized, space-time distortions that rapidly pull heat energy away from a targeted area. In simple terms, they can freeze a section of space almost instantly. The hologram zoomed in to show Earth orbit, where 7 red dots represented the Council ships. When they return with their fleet, we'll activate the Pluto array first. Dr. Frost continued. It will create a gravitational lens effect, trapping their ships in position. Then we'll use the Europa and Mars stations to drop the temperature around their fleet to near absolute zero. One of the generals at the table raised his hand. Won't our own ships be affected? That's the beautiful part, Admiral Chen said with a small smile. After we discovered this weakness 3 years ago, we've been quietly rebuilding our fleet with cold-resistant technology. Our new ships are designed to operate in temperatures as low as -200 degrees. The Council has grown complacent, Dr. Frost explained. They've been the dominant power for so long that they've stopped innovating. They don't expect resistance, and they certainly don't expect us to have technology they consider impossible. President Garcia looked troubled. This plan, it could start a war with the entire Council. There are 30 species aligned with them. Not for long, Dr. Frost said confidently. Our intelligence shows many younger species are unhappy with Council rule. They stay in line because they believe the Council is all-powerful. When we prove otherwise, we create a new balance of power, Admiral Chen finished. The room fell quiet as everyone considered the plan. It was bold, perhaps even reckless, but the alternative was surrender and likely eventual extinction. How quickly can the system be ready? President Garcia finally asked. Dr. Frost checked his tablet. The Pluto array is already operational. The Mars station needs another week. Europa will be ready in 12 days. And what do we do while these preparations are underway? Asked the Commerce Secretary, a nervous-looking man with glasses. The Council ships are still orbiting Earth. They're watching us. Admiral Chen smiled. We give them exactly what they expect to see. A frightened species preparing to surrender. Dr. Frost nodded in agreement. I'll meet with their delegation tomorrow. I'll ask for clarifications about their demands. I'll appear confused, even frightened. I'll waste their time with questions about exactly what technologies we need to surrender. And meanwhile, Admiral Chen added, we quietly prepare for Operation Permafrost. President Garcia looked around the table at the other leaders. We need to vote. This plan puts everything at risk. If it fails, humanity could face extinction. One by one they voted. The decision was unanimous. Very well, President Garcia said solemnly. Operation Permafrost is approved. May God help us all. As the meeting ended, Admiral Chen and Dr. Frost remained behind. They stood side by side looking at the hologram of the solar system with its hidden defensive network. Do you think it will work? She asked quietly. Dr. Frost's gray eyes seemed to look beyond the hologram, calculating possibilities only he could see. The Council has forgotten what it means to adapt, he said. They've forgotten what it means to struggle for survival. But humans remember. That will make all the difference. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the frozen surface of Pluto, looking up at the stars. Even through her helmet's protective visor, the cold was noticeable. The temperature gauge on her wrist read -230 degrees Celsius. Cold enough to freeze, oxygen solid, but her special suit kept her comfortable. Seems peaceful out here, said Lieutenant Kim, who stood beside her. Hard to believe we might be at war soon. Maya nodded. That's why we're here, to make sure war doesn't happen. They turned and walked toward a seemingly ordinary patch of ice. To the naked eye, there was nothing special about it, but Maya's helmet display showed what lay beneath. A massive structure buried under 2 kilometers of ice and rock. Maya pressed her gloved hand against a small panel hidden among the rocks. A section of the ground slid open, revealing a tunnel with a transport platform. Welcome to Frostbite Station, she said to her team of 12 engineers and specialists. The most important place in the solar system right now. They descended quickly. The platform dropped through the dark tunnel, lit only by soft blue lights along the walls. After 2 minutes, they reached the bottom and stepped out into an enormous underground cavern. Lieutenant Kim gasped. It's huge. The facility stretched for almost a kilometer in every direction. Hundreds of machines hummed quietly, tended by robots and a small human crew. At the center stood a massive ring-shaped device glowing with a soft purple light. The gravity manipulation array, Maya explained. The heart of Project Permafrost. Dr. Nadia Volkov approached them. She was the chief scientist for the Pluto operation, a brilliant woman with a reputation for solving impossible problems. Captain Rodriguez, welcome to Pluto, she said. We've been expecting you. How are the preparations going? Maya asked. Dr. Volkov led them toward the central array. We're at 92% capacity. The array can already create small wormholes and gravity lenses. By tomorrow, we'll be fully operational. As they walked, Maya studied the facility. Most people on Earth had no idea this place existed. It had been built in absolute secrecy over the past 5 years, using technology that most humans didn't know was possible. The Council thinks we're still decades away from gravity manipulation, Dr. Volkov said as if reading Maya's thoughts. They believe wormhole technology is hundreds of years beyond our capability. That's our advantage, Maya replied. They underestimate us. They reached the control center, a circular room with screens showing the entire solar system. One screen showed Earth with 7 red dots orbiting it, the Council ships. We're monitoring their every move, Dr. Volkov explained. They've been scanning Earth constantly, looking for signs of compliance or resistance. And what are they seeing? Lieutenant Kim asked. Exactly what we want them to see, Maya answered. Governments meeting in emergency sessions, military units being stood down, Earth preparing to surrender. Another screen showed Mars. There, another team was working on a similar but smaller facility. The Europa station was represented by a blinking blue light, still under construction but nearly complete. When will we test the system? Maya asked. We can do a small-scale test now, Dr. Volkov replied. Nothing the Council will notice. She pressed several buttons on her control panel. Outside, far from the facility, the array focused its energy on a small area of space. The temperature there dropped instantly to near absolute zero, creating a small cloud of frozen particles. Perfect, Dr. Volkov said with satisfaction. When all 3 stations are online, we can freeze a volume of space large enough to trap Their entire fleet. Maya nodded. And our ships? Are they ready? Dr. Volkov switched to another screen showing Earth's orbital shipyards. There, a fleet of human vessels was being quickly modified, their hulls reinforced with special materials to withstand extreme cold. Admiral Chen is overseeing the fleet preparations personally, Dr. Volkov said. The first 20 ships have already been upgraded. Maya felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps they really could stand against the Council. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Elijah Frost sat across from the Galactic Council representatives in a large conference room. He had been meeting with them for hours, asking detailed questions about their ultimatum. So, to clarify, he said, his voice carefully hesitant, when you say we must surrender our AI systems, does that include the medical diagnostic AIs used in our hospitals, or just the military systems? High Counselor Zevra's forearms moved in a gesture of impatience. All artificial intelligence systems above Category 3. Medical systems may be retained if they are simple diagnosis tools only. Dr. Frost made a show of writing this down slowly. And what exactly defines a Category 3 system? Our classification system might be different from yours. The Proximan member of the delegation glittered in the room's light. This is the 5th time you have asked for clarification on this point, Dr. Frost. I apologize, Frost said, looking appropriately intimidated. We just want to ensure we comply correctly. The penalty for mistakes seems severe. This was his strategy, to appear confused and frightened, asking the same questions in slightly different ways, wasting the Council's time while Earth's real preparations continued elsewhere. A message appeared on his tablet. The Mars facility was now online. 2 down, 1 to go. Perhaps we should continue tomorrow, Frost suggested, rubbing his eyes as if tired. I have many more questions about the technical specifications for the quantum technology surrender. The Rigelian delegate's scales shifted to a dark blue color, showing its frustration. Very well, but remember, human, your time is limited. 26 days remain. After the aliens left, Frost sent an encrypted message to Admiral Chen. Council suspects nothing. Continuing delay tactics. On Europa, Jupiter's icy moon, construction teams worked around the clock to complete the 3rd and final station of Project Permafrost. Unlike the facilities on Pluto and Mars, the Europa station was built under the moon's frozen ocean, using the natural insulation of ice and water. Engineer James Wong supervised as the last major component was lowered into place. A quantum field generator that looked like a giant blue crystal. Careful, he called to the crane operator. That thing cost more than everything else in this facility combined. Once the generator was secured, Wong contacted Earth. Europa Station structural completion at 100%. Starting system tests now. Will be fully operational in 48 hours. Back in New York, Admiral Chen received all these reports in her secure office. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The Council's spies had noted increased activity in the solar system but had misinterpreted it as panic rather than preparation. On her screens, she watched as Dr. Frost continued his meetings with the Council delegation, playing his role perfectly, a scared scientist trying desperately to understand the terms of humanity's surrender. Sir, her assistant said from the doorway, the President is asking for an update. Tell him Project Permafrost is on schedule, she replied. All 3 stations will be operational within 48 hours. The fleet upgrades are proceeding ahead of schedule. She turned back to her screens, watching as humanity secretly prepared for what would either be their greatest triumph or their final stand. The Council had given Earth 30 days to submit. But when that deadline arrived, the aliens would find something very different waiting for them. Day 29 arrived with a tense quiet across Earth. In cities around the world, people looked up at the sky where the Council ships hung like dark stars. Most citizens had been told to prepare for surrender. Only a small group knew the truth. In her command center beneath the Pentagon, Admiral Helena Chen watched the final preparations on multiple screens. All 3 stations, Pluto, Mars, and Europa, showed green status indicators. Earth's modified fleet waited silently in the shadow of Saturn, hidden from council sensors by the giant planet's rings. "Admiral," her communications officer called, "the council's main fleet has entered the solar system. 43 vessels approaching from the direction of Alpha Centauri." Helena nodded calmly. "Right on schedule. How long until they reach Earth?" 6 hours at their current speed." She touched her comm device. "Dr. Frost, your meeting with the council representatives begins in 30 minutes. Are you ready?" From his office in New York, Elijah Frost adjusted his simple black suit. "Ready as I'll ever be. Time to deliver humanity's response." The meeting room at the United Nations had been prepared specially for this final encounter. The council delegation entered with the confidence of those who expected victory. High Counselor Zevra led the way, followed by the other alien representatives. Dr. Frost sat alone at the large table, a single folder in front of him. He stood politely as the aliens entered. "Dr. Frost," the High Counselor said, "the deadline arrives today. Is Earth prepared to submit to the Council's requirements?" Frost opened his folder and removed a single sheet of paper. "I have Earth's official response here." The aliens waited expectantly as Frost cleared his throat and read, "The nations of Earth have considered the Galactic Council's demands carefully. After much discussion, we respectfully decline your generous offer." The room fell completely silent. The Proximan delegate's crystal body flashed with surprised colors. The Rigelian scales shifted to angry red patterns. "Perhaps the translation is incorrect," Zevra said finally. "You cannot be refusing our directive." "The translation is perfect," Frost replied calmly. "Earth does not accept your terms." The High Counselor's forearms moved in a pattern that indicated both surprise and anger. "Then you leave us no choice. The Council fleet will implement remedial action immediately." Frost smiled slightly. "We expected as much. Before you leave, may I ask one last question?" "Speak," the Proximan said coldly. "Your species all evolved on worlds with moderate, stable climates. Tell me, how well does your technology function in extreme cold?" The aliens exchanged confused glances. Without waiting for an answer, Frost stood and walked to the door. "The Council has mistaken our peaceful nature for weakness," he said. "That was your first mistake. Your second was assuming we would surrender rather than adapt." He nodded respectfully. "Good day, Counselors. I believe your fleet is waiting." The Council's main fleet approached Mars orbit, joining with the 7 ships that had been stationed near Earth. 50 warships in total, each larger than anything humans had ever built, moved into attack formation. On the Council flagship, Supreme, Overseer Zix Talif watched with satisfaction. "Begin the first phase. Disable their primitive orbital defenses." "Yes, Supreme Overseer," his second-in-command replied. "Weapons charging, target acquired." But before they could fire, warning alarms sounded throughout the ship. The navigation officer looked up with confusion. "Supreme Overseer, something is happening. The gravity readings around us are changing." On Pluto, Captain Maya Rodriguez stood in the control center of Frostbite Station. "Activate the array, full power." Dr. Volkov pressed her hand against the main control panel. "Gravity lens generating now." The massive ring in the center of the facility began to spin, glowing brighter until it was painful to look at directly. Energy surged through the system as the array focused its power on the space around Mars, where the Council fleet had gathered. In space, the stars seemed to bend around the Council ships. A strange distortion spread like ripples in water, trapping the alien vessels in a pocket of altered spacetime. "What is happening?" Supreme Overseer Zix Talif demanded as his ship shuddered. "Engine status." "Engines at full power, but we're not moving," his officer reported with growing panic. "It's as if space itself is holding us in place." On Mars, the secondary facility powered up. Commander Jackson gave the order. "Activate thermal field. Drop temperature to target levels." Engineers worked quickly, channeling power through the complex machinery. The quantum field generators, similar to those on Pluto but designed for a different purpose, began to pull heat energy away from the trapped Council fleet. In the command center on Earth, Admiral Chen watched as temperature readings around the alien ships plummeted rapidly. -50 degrees Celsius, her science officer reported. -100, -150. On the Council flagship, systems began failing one by one. Ice crystals formed on the interior walls. Weapon controls froze solid. Life support flickered and died. The aliens, used to carefully controlled environments, found themselves in rapidly deepening cold. Impossible. Supreme Overseer Zixtalev whispered, his breath visible in the freezing air. They cannot have this technology. It's beyond their development level. Emergency power to life support, his second-in-command shouted. Reroute all available energy. But it was too late. The temperature continued to drop until it reached -200 degrees Celsius, far beyond what Council technology could withstand. Ship after ship went dark, their systems completely frozen. From Europa, the third station added its power to the attack. Engineer Wong watched his monitors with professional pride as the quantum field stabilized, maintaining the extreme cold around the helpless fleet. Temperature holding at target levels, he reported. The fleet is completely immobilized. In orbit, above Earth, the 7 Council ships that had delivered the ultimatum tried to escape. But the gravity lens extended to catch them as well, holding them in place as the cold spread to engulf them. On her command screen, Admiral Chen saw the entire Council fleet go dark. 50 ships, the pride of the Galactic Council's power, hung frozen and helpless in space. Phase 1 complete, she said into her comm device. Captain Rodriguez, well done. Thank you, Admiral, Maya replied from Pluto. The array performed, better than expected. We can maintain these conditions indefinitely. Chen turned to her fleet commander. Signal our ships to move into position. It's time for Phase 2. From their hiding place in Saturn's rings, 20 human vessels emerged. They were smaller than the Council ships, but built to operate in the extreme conditions that had disabled the alien fleet. Their hulls gleamed with frost as they accelerated toward Mars. Admiral Chen stood up from her command chair. Tell Dr. Frost that Operation Permafrost was successful. The Council fleet has received humanity's response. As Earth's ships approached, the frozen alien fleet, Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Council had expected surrender. Instead, they had found that humans were far more dangerous and far more advanced than they had believed possible. The Galactic Council's final warning had been delivered. Now it was time for them to receive humanity's answer. Admiral Helena Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Resilience, Earth's newest flagship. Through the viewport, she could see the frozen Council vessels hanging motionless in space. Ice crystals covered their hulls, glittering in the distant sunlight. All ships report ready, Admiral, her second-in-command Commander Davis announced. Special operations teams are standing by. Helena nodded. Begin Phase 2. Target the Council flagship first. 20 human vessels moved into position around the much larger alien ships. Despite their smaller size, the Earth ships were sleek and functional, designed for the harsh conditions of deep space. Their hulls were covered with a special material that not only withstood the extreme cold, but actually drew power from it. Boarding teams, prepare to launch, Helena ordered. Remember, this is not about destruction. This is about sending a message. 5 smaller craft detached from the Resilience, heading toward the Council flagship. Inside each craft, soldiers in specialized environmental suits checked their equipment. These suits were unlike anything the Council had ever seen, capable of operating in temperatures close to absolute zero and adapting to different atmospheric conditions within seconds. Captain Miguel Sanchez led the first boarding team. Remember the plan, he told his squad. We secure the bridge, download their communication codes, and take control of their systems. No unnecessary force. Their craft attached to the side of the massive alien ship like a tiny remora on a whale. Special cutting tools quickly opened a path through the frozen hull. Inside the Council flagship, emergency systems were barely functioning. Most of the alien crew had retreated to emergency shelters where the last reserves of heat kept them alive. The few remaining on the bridge were bundled in thermal blankets, their movements slow and clumsy in the bitter cold. Supreme Overseer Zix Talev huddled near a failing heater. "Status report," he demanded, his voice shaking. "Life support at 12%. "Capacity," his second-in-command replied. "Hull integrity compromised in multiple sections. Weapons and propulsion systems non-functional." A loud noise from the main door made them all turn. The massive metal portal, designed to withstand energy weapons, had frozen solid in the extreme cold. Now it cracked and shattered as human soldiers forced their way through. Captain Sanchez entered first, his weapon ready but pointed downward. His suit showed no signs of distress in the freezing conditions. The aliens stared in shock at the humans who moved easily, in an environment that had crippled their advanced technology. "Supreme Overseer Zix Talev," Sanchez said, his voice coming through his suit's speakers. "The Earth Defense Force requests your immediate surrender." The Supreme Overseer rose shakily to his feet. This is impossible. Your species does not have the technology to do this." "Clearly your information is outdated," Sanchez replied calmly. "Your ships are disabled. Your crew is in danger. Surrender now and we will provide emergency heating and medical assistance." Around the frozen fleet, similar scenes played out as human boarding teams secured one ship after another. The Council forces, unprepared for both the extreme cold and the human attack, offered little resistance. On the Resilience, Admiral Chen received regular updates as more Council ships fell under human control. "Captain Rodriguez," she called over the secure channel. "Status of the Pluto array?" From the distant station, Maya Rodriguez answered. "The array is stable, Admiral. We can maintain the gravity lens and cold field as long as needed." "Excellent. And Dr. Frost?" "Standing by with the message, ready to transmit once we have control of their communication network." Within 2 hours, human forces had secured the command centers of all 50 Council ships. The alien crews were moved to heated areas where medical teams provided care. Earth's engineers quickly understood the Council's technology, using their own devices to restore basic systems. Captain Sanchez brought Supreme Overseer Zix Talev to the Resilience. The alien leader seemed smaller now, his once impressive presence diminished by defeat. Admiral Chen met them in the ship's conference room. "Supreme Overseer," she said with a respectful nod. "I am Admiral Helena Chen of Earth. You have committed an act of war against the Galactic Council," Zix Talev said, though his voice lacked conviction. "The consequences will be severe." Admiral Chen gestured to a screen showing the disabled Council fleet. "The consequences are already severe, Supreme Overseer, but not for Earth." Dr. Frost entered the room, carrying a data tablet. "We have full access to their communication network," he reported. "We can broadcast to every Council world simultaneously." "Excellent," Chen said. She turned back to Zix Talev. "We are not interested in destroying your civilization, Supreme Overseer. We want peace, but as equals, not as subjects. The Council does not negotiate with—" "The Council will negotiate," Chen interrupted firmly. "Because the alternative is the complete collapse of your authority." Dr. Frost activated his tablet, showing footage of the human boarding teams easily moving through the frozen Council ships. "This message is being transmitted to every world in the Council territories. Your people are seeing the truth, that your technology failed against a primitive species you tried to bully into submission." Zix Talev's eyes widened. "You wouldn't dare." "We already have," Chen said. "And that's not all." Another screen showed detailed scans of Council technology, with all its weaknesses highlighted. "We're also sharing our analysis of your ship's vulnerabilities. Every independent world now knows exactly how to defend against Council aggression." The Supreme Overseer slumped in his chair. "You've destroyed everything." "No," Chen corrected. "We've changed everything. The old Council ruled by fear and false superiority is finished, but something better can take its place." Dr. Frost added, "Our message includes an invitation to all species, including the founding Council members, to meet on neutral ground and establish a new galactic compact, one based on mutual respect and cooperation." Captain Sanchez had been monitoring communications from the other captured ships. "Admiral, we're receiving responses from 17 worlds already. They're celebrating." It seems the Council's rule was not as popular as the Supreme Overseer believed. Chen wasn't surprised. Their intelligence had suggested many younger species resented the Council's control. "Supreme Overseer," she said, leaning forward. "You have a choice. You can join us in building something new, or you can cling to a past that no longer exists." Zix-Talov was silent for a long moment. The forearms that had once moved with such confidence now hung limply at his sides. "How?" he finally asked. "How did you develop this technology without us knowing?" Dr. Frost smiled slightly. "You only saw what you expected to see. A young species struggling with basic space travel. You never looked deeper because you never believed we could surprise you. Your greatest weakness," Chen added, "wasn't your technology. It was your arrogance." Outside the viewport, Earth ships were now helping to thaw the Council vessels, carefully restoring power and life support. It wasn't destruction humanity wanted, it was recognition. As the Supreme Overseer watched this unexpected mercy, something changed in his expression. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "there is much the Council has forgotten about adaptation." Admiral Chen nodded. "The universe is too cold and too vast for any species to survive without learning to adapt." She extended her hand in the human gesture of agreement. "Shall we begin building something new?" After a moment's hesitation, the Supreme Overseer extended one of his forearms in return. The first step toward a different future had been taken. 3 months after Operation Permafrost, Admiral Helena Chen and Dr. Elijah Frost stood in the massive observation dome of the Galactic Council's central station. The station orbited a neutral star at the exact center of Council space, a place where representatives of all spacefaring species could meet. But this was not the same Council that had threatened Earth. This was something new. "I never thought I'd stand here as an equal," Helena said quietly as they watched delegates from 37 different species enter the great meeting hall. "Not in my lifetime." Dr. Frost nodded. "Fear is a powerful tool for control, but it only works until someone stands up to the bully." They had spent the past 3 months in endless meetings and negotiations. After the defeat of the Council fleet, the political structure of known space had changed dramatically. The founding Council species had lost much of their authority when the footage of their frozen ships spread across the galaxy. Younger species, long kept in submissive roles, demanded representation and equal status. Supreme Overseer Zix-Talov, now simply Representative Zix-Talov, had surprised everyone by supporting reform. Perhaps his experience of defeat had changed him, or perhaps he simply recognized that the old ways could not continue. "It's time," said President Garcia, who had joined the Earth delegation for this historic occasion. "The first full session of the new Galactic Assembly is about to begin." They entered the hall together. Unlike the old council chambers where founding species sat on elevated platforms above the rest, this new hall was arranged in a perfect circle. Every delegation had identical seating, regardless of their species' age or technological advancement. Helena noticed that the temperature in the room was cooler than the original council preferred, a small but significant acknowledgement that different species had different needs. Environmental suits and adaptive clothing allowed everyone to participate comfortably. At the center of the circle stood a podium where speakers would address the assembly. The first to approach was a representative of the Arcturians, once the most powerful of the council species. "Fellow sentients," the Arcturian began, its 4 arms moving in formal patterns. "Today marks a new beginning for all spacefaring peoples. The old council is dissolved. In its place, we establish the Galactic Assembly, where all species have equal voice and equal rights." Murmurs of approval filled the hall. Helena caught the eye of Captain Maya Rodriguez, who sat with the Earth Defense delegation. Maya smiled and gave a small thumbs up. The officers who had commanded Operation Permafrost had become celebrities of sorts, both on Earth and throughout the galaxy. "The first order of business," the Arcturian continued, "is to ratify the adaptive alliance doctrine, establishing new principles for interspecies relations." Dr. Frost had helped write that document. It rejected the old council's rigid hierarchy based on how long a species had been spacefaring. Instead, it recognized that different evolutionary paths led to different strengths, and that diversity made the galaxy stronger. All species evolved to meet the challenges of their home environments, the document stated. The ability to adapt, not the age of a civilization, is the true measure of advancement. The vote was not unanimous. Some of the original council species still resisted change, but it passed with overwhelming support. A new age had begun. After the session, a young representative from a species called the Navari approached Helena. The Navari had only achieved space travel 50 years ago and had lived under strict council control until now. Admiral Chen, the Navari said in the musical tones of their species. My people wish to express our gratitude. Your stand against the council has freed many young species from restrictions that held us back for generations. Helena nodded respectfully. Earth only did what any world would do when threatened. We defended ourselves. But there is something I do not understand, the Navari continued. How did you know their ultimatum was a bluff? That they were not as powerful as they claimed? Many species believed the council was invincible. Helena smiled. She had been asked this question many times in the past months. When a truly all-powerful group wants something, she explained, they don't need to make threats or set deadlines. They simply take what they want. The fact that they tried to intimidate us with warnings and ultimatums suggested weakness, not strength. The Navari's eyes widened with understanding. A simple insight, yet profound. Sometimes the simplest observations are the most valuable, Helena agreed. As the Navari left, Dr. Frost joined her. Our transport leaves in an hour. The President wants us back on Earth for the opening of the new Interstellar Relations Center. Helena nodded. Earth had changed too in these past months. Knowledge of alien species and cultures previously restricted to a small group of officials had spread worldwide. Humans were eager to learn about their galactic neighbors, and educational programs about extraterrestrial civilizations were immensely popular. Before we go, Frost said, I wanted to show you something. He led her to another observation deck, this one facing away from the station toward distant space. There, visible through the reinforced glass, was a massive construction project. Hundreds of ships and robots worked together on what looked like an enormous ring. The first hub of the new wormhole network, Frost explained, built with Earth's gravity manipulation technology but improved with input from 17 different species. Will it work? Helena asked. Better than we ever imagined, Frost replied. With the combined knowledge of so many different civilizations, we've solved problems that stumped us for years. The network will connect 30 major systems in its first phase, reducing travel time from months to minutes. Helena watched the distant construction with satisfaction. The Pluto array, once a secret weapon, was now the template for this massive project that would bring the galaxy closer together. Human technology, combined with alien insights, had created something neither could have built alone. Time to go home, she said finally. As their ship departed the station, Helena looked back at the assembly hub one last time. The Council's final warning had been meant to force Earth into submission. Instead, it had sparked a revolution that transformed the galaxy. Supreme Overseer Zix Talif had been right about one thing. Humans were indeed a destabilizing force. But sometimes, systems needed to be destabilized before they could evolve into something better. The old equilibrium of fear and control was gone. In its place was something new, a balance based on mutual respect and the recognition that every species, no matter how young or different, had something valuable to contribute. Earth's frosty response had not just saved humanity, it had changed the galaxy forever.